Just regular life. You go. We'll talk about that later.
Let the sun shine. 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 Let the sun shine.
Hey. How you doing? What's happening over there, Miss Wiggins?
How you doing?
I mean, Miss Pruitt. Yeah, Sonia. Yeah. So we're gonna let everybody get on. I first want to shout out to my sponsor. It is Gallo Wines. Tonight they are featuring a Cabernet Sauvignon Rosé, which is called Louis Martini, and it's quite good for the summer. So I'm not mad at that. And it's gonna be a drinking type of night because we got to go deep. Oh, you got a mason jar. All right.
Because it's going to be that kind of conversation.
Yes, it is, Captain. It is, Captain. It is. We getting everybody on the show tonight. Hey, everybody. We got a good show for y'all. This is affecting everybody, whether you black or white, whether you Latin or Asian, what's going on in the country right now. People should be very, very, very concerned and very angry at what they see, because it's just not one person's civil liberty that's being taken, it's everyone's civil liberty being taken. So if somebody got a neck on somebody's neck and they might be black, trust me, if you're Latino, if you're an Asian person out there, even if you're white, there might be an officer that will put their son or daughter or whatever on your neck. So I have the wonderful guest, Miss Sonia Pruitt, who is here today. She is a captain
Yes.
in the Montgomery. Yeah. How you doing? She's the captain.
I'm trying to figure out how to use my phone to turn it off.
We're going to get you started.
We're the police, and we know we ain't always technically savvy. We got to try to figure stuff out.
There you go. I love it. Captain Sonia Pruitt, who is also the chairwoman of the National Black Police Association. She is the captain with the Montgomery County Police Department in Maryland. Those of you guys who are not familiar with Maryland, that's the DMV area. Montgomery County is Bethesda. Montgomery County is
Silver Spring, Rockville.
Yep. All of that on the north end of DC, of the District of Northwest DC. So that's where she reigns. Welcome to the show, Dari, Cecil, Eric, Leslie, Kristen, Cheryl, Stephanie, Candace. I'm glad I got some lawyers on here because I know y'all can ask some questions. And this is going to be an open forum for you guys to ask questions about what is going on in the police departments and how to see things from the inside out. We always see things from our prism. Okay, we always see things from the way we see it based on video or based on hearsay, but we never actually get to see what's happening in the inside of the code of blue per se. All right, Sonia has graced us with her presence. She's retiring in July. Is that correct?
July the 1st.
All right. But just let me introduce her so you will understand who you're talking to. Just briefly, I'm going to give you a brief overview. She is currently right now, she serves 28 years in the police force. She is currently working as a director of community engagement in the community engagement division for the Montgomery County Police Department. How large is that police department, by the way?
We have approximately 1,400 sworn officers.
Okay, that's pretty big, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Her team focuses on building legitimate and trusting relationships with the community and managing the school resource officer program for the department. We'll talk about that and what that means as well. And during her tenure as an officer, she's also had a variety of assignments, which allows her to speak from various law enforcement vantage points, including internal affairs, the district command, administrative, executive, detective, investigative support, as well as public information officer, and even a call taker for the police 911 dispatch center. So thank you, Sonia, for coming to the show. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
Right. So let's just get right into it.
Okay.
We got a lot of thanks everybody for coming on. And like I said, you guys bring your questions because this is going to be a great conversation. And it is a conversation. It's a conversation because a lot of people are upset. A lot of people are mad.
I'm upset. I'm mad too.
I hear you. There are a lot of people that are upset, and there are a lot of people that are mad. So I'm just going to break down 3 things why people are upset this week. First things first. Here in New York, you had Amy Cooper, who threatened to call the police because she felt threatened by the black man, Mr. Christian Cooper, who was a bird watcher in Central Park in the Rambles, and she felt like she was infringing upon her rights because she was being inconvenienced by following and obeying the law. The law in New York City, for everybody out there who has not heard about it from the time that incident happened to today, you have to have your dog on a leash in New York City. I don't care where you are in New York City, point blank, period, 6 feet of a leash too. It can't be a 12-foot leash. It has to be a 6-foot leash. So it's a good social distancing leash, number one. The other reason why people are upset is because the second reason is because 81% of all the citations here in New York City have been Black and Latino for people not wearing their mask or social distancing. When you have seen white people in the park, Christopher Street Park, when you've seen white folks in downtown on the pier and on the Upper West Side, on the Upper East Side, at the bar at Dorian's on 3rd Avenue, and there was no police presence there breaking that up and not giving any citations. So the citations have been given. 81% people are upset about that. And the third thing that everybody is upset with this week is George Floyd in Minnesota, which you saw the tape, 8 to 9 minutes of that tape of the officer with his knee on his neck, and George saying, "I can't breathe." And then you see him passing away. So those are the 3 things that just happened. And there are probably more. It's just those are the 3 things that were at top of the media that everybody know about, and that are, basically saying this is why we rage. So this is a safe space for everybody to talk tonight, to voice your concerns, voice your anger. But what you're not going to do out there is come for Sonya. She's coming for us and letting us know what's going on inside, because we really need to see it from a different vantage point on how police see things. We know how things are, and we know what you experience inside the police house. I want to peel back the layer and really try to understand what really is being said, what really is happening during this time when we have that. So, number one, let's start out. You are a captain. Give us the hierarchy of where that is and how does that rank, just so we understand your position and then what happens and where these officers are.
Okay. So it may be a little different in each police department, but most of police departments follow a military rank structure. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, in my police department, we'll have a police officer candidate. That's the person who's in the police academy. Then you have a police officer 1, 2, and 3. After that, you got a corporal, which is also called a master officer. Okay. And then you have a sergeant. Then you have a lieutenant. Then you have a captain. And once you reach the rank of captain, then there is a lateral structure whereby you can become a commander, an assistant chief, or a chief.
Okay.
Some police departments have majors and deputy chiefs. We don't have that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's based on size, right? So you're looking at a city like a New York would have that, a Philadelphia, all of that would have majors in their department. It just depends on their culture, right?
It depends on the culture, not necessarily the size.
Okay. Cool. So as captain, and you are right now director of community engagement division at Fort Montgomery, what's the conversation being had right now in your department regarding the incidents that happened, and that this could likely spill over into other cities outside of Minneapolis? because you see protests today in New York as well as in LA that was shown on CNN and MSNBC.
So I'm going to start off by saying policing is very polarized, just like politics.
Okay.
Our police officers, for instance, I'm going to start from the last case that you mentioned, which is George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any police officers who do not agree that that was wrong.
Okay.
But the justifications have started. There's a faction of police officers who have said, well, he must have been under a lot of stress. I mean, all kinds of excuses.
Right.
Stress, maybe he had a bad day. And then I even saw an officer, and this was a Black officer, talk about Black on Black crime. We can talk about that if you'd like.
Yeah.
I have my opinion about that.
Right.
And then you have another group of officers who was like, no, that was a murder.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. I don't know what else y'all need. People want to, we need to see more video. We need to see what happened. You don't need to see what happened. You saw what happened.
Right.
A man was under control. He was in cuffs, and someone's off. I don't want to call him an officer. This dude still on the knee to put his knee on his neck until he died.
Right.
Force. Most use of force policy across the country. Now, it is not consistent from department to department.
Now, I'm sorry. Repeat that again, because I missed the first part of what you said.
Use of force is not necessarily consistent from department to department.
Okay.
Especially in smaller departments.
Okay.
Something that we need to ask the federal government to handle. We need a consistent use of force policy across this country. But most police departments that are living in the 21st century have policy that pretty much states you use the force necessary to bring someone under control and arrest them if necessary.
Wow.
Already under control. There was nothing that they needed to do. If I don't know what they were waiting for, first of all, but if let's say they were waiting for a payback, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Could have just left them laying there until the wagon got there. You had officers out there. What's the need for the knee?
Right. Now, when y'all see something like that, the next day when you come to work, is that a conversation? Just help me out. Help me out in the minds of the blue world, the blue code, and help us all out, because we all trying to figure out, we know what's going on right now. I mean, we basically are modern day lynching. And let's just say this for the record. We have seen where we know in the South, Jim Crow South, where I grew up in Georgia, basically people took off the Klan mask and then they went into the police academy and the police force, fire departments and stuff of that nature. And they hold true around the world, across the country, excuse me. We know that. So we know that there is a racism in the system. We've seen that. It is historically, categorically, you can't deny it, it's there. But when you go into work that next day with something like that happening, as a Black woman, as a captain, where you have all these white officers that are reporting to you, what's the conversation? What is being said? What is, help me out with that.
So currently my team, and let me just let y'all know, since I'm retiring July 1st, I'm kind of on leave. I'm not going back to work. So I haven't been inside the building to see what the reaction is, but I have been online to see what people are saying. Mm-hmm. But what I will share with you is an experience I had when I was a lieutenant.
Okay.
We would have I was in internal affairs, and we would have a weekly meeting on Wednesdays. I believe in talking about whatever it is that we need to talk about.
Right.
And I believe in bringing up things that are compelling to talk about. So often I would bring up something that happened, and we had a conversation one day about Trayvon Martin, and I was surprised at how many officers thought he was rightfully, I guess, accosted and then killed, perhaps, by George Zimmerman. The conversation about race inside policing is very uncomfortable.
Mm.
Or I'm not uncomfortable with it. I mean,
Right.
I went to Howard University. I better not be uncomfortable with it.
Of course.
Okay. But in particular, white officers and some Black officers are uncomfortable talking about race. And that used to confound me. I'm like, well, why can't we just talk about it? We all know each other. We work together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot deeper than that.
Okay.
The discomfort may come from guilt. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
These are some possibilities.
Well, I think one thing that we need to say for the record, and I've always been saying this, and I didn't mean to crop up. You go. I always need to say this. You have more education than most officers in the police force. You have your masters. You have your bachelors. You have your masters. 90% of the officers don't have that level of education.
Mm-hmm.
So the bias of those officers that you're working with, I don't think they have a perspective level because they are in their ethnic neighborhoods that they reside in.
Mm-hmm.
They feed off of the nepotism from father to son, and it continues on. And so I think you have a behavioral thing that goes through most departments where the behavior stays the same from when it was back in the 60s.
Mm. Okay.
So let's, and I think that is an issue. We're not dealing with people who, a lot of the officers, it wasn't like a lot of these white guys who are in the police force was looking to be venture capitalists, were looking to be president and CEOs. It was, they either went to the Air Force, Army, or they came and became an officer. And
in my department, you have to have at least what's equivalent to an associate's degree to become a police officer. So we probably have a little bit higher educated police department. But you've said some really, really important things.
But is that based on your tax base?
Say again.
Is that based on your tax base? I mean,
is what based on it?
You're basically having a higher standard.
No.
County, y'all have a very...
I see what you're saying. I don't think so. I think the thought was that if you have an officer, and I can follow this.
Mm-hmm.
Officer who is more educated or who has lived a little bit of life before they become a police officer, that makes for a better officer. You know, that's an individual thing, actually. For
right,
you can see where they are trying to go with that.
Right.
I teach criminal justice courses at Montgomery College.
Okay.
I was surprised in one of my courses, I got a new textbook and I was flipping through the textbook and they had a full chapter on police culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, somebody's admitting that we have our own separate culture. We do. Our own separate culture, our subcultures, and none of them were created for people who are brown and Black.
Okay.
This profession was not something, we can go back to slave patrols where all of this began.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, there's tradition. And traditionally, we have continued to keep a certain mindset in law enforcement that came from slave patrols all the way up to 2020. And here we are with this same mindset that we got this power and we're better than some people. Maybe you don't say it out loud, but you said it through your actions. For me, my experience within the police department, it sometimes it was out loud.
Okay, excuse me.
And so the police culture is insular, and it's well grounded. And there's, you begin to learn about that culture very early on from the academy.
Okay.
Not say it, and I don't know all the behind the door conversations that go on, but there's some certain things that you begin to learn. I came on the department. I have to say I had some older officers, both Black and white, who were very above board, very by the book. They didn't play, you know, there wouldn't have been no George Floyd under their watch.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening in the country now and who we're hiring, but that trend is changing.
For the good or
and
for the
no, for the bad, for the worse, in my opinion.
Wow. Okay. In 2020.
In 2020. I mean, it wasn't, but just a few years ago, they found all those officers who were members of white supremacist groups online.
Right. Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's just the new KKK as far as I'm concerned. You
Correct.
just on a hood. You hiding behind a computer screen now.
Right. And I mean, and with the day when you have a Justice Department that is taking over for a president that we have, that we know that will do anything to support his base. You know, I don't like calling people racist, even though I know what you are. I don't have to say it. I just know it. It's just one of those things. I don't feed into it. And when I say I don't feed into it, trust me, I am. You don't have to question my blackness up in here about what I am. What I'm saying is, I'm not going to be walking down the street calling you a racist. We know what Donald Trump is. I know his tactics and how he manipulates the systems. The same way he's manipulating and using the Justice Department to manipulate the system and also to keep black and brown people down. Started with immigration and homeland security, and then he just moved over into what's going on now with Barr in the Justice Department. And when you start looking at the judges in the judicial system. See, the thing is, what I think a lot of people are frustrated about is because we got 3 branches of government, but you also have a 4th branch, which is the people. And the people are upset, and the people can protest, and the people can change the executive, the judicial, and the legislative branch of what's going on. And I think what we have right now is a lot of people who are. That's why I quoted today and said, this is going to be a long, hot summer.
Yes.
It's going to be a long, hot summer based on the fact that you got 40 million people who don't apply for unemployment. That's just 40 million people who apply for unemployment. There were people who are already unemployed. Okay. We got 330 million people in America, right? You're going to have a lot of cities, a lot of people are hurt. A lot of young people are hurt. They ain't got nothing but time. It's going to be a long, hot summer. It's going to be a volatile summer because if they don't arrest these officers, because you can arrest them right now based on the charges of what's being out there right now. You don't have to wait and see further video like they're saying now, and that's why you're going to have the protest.
So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
When I saw that were not prepared to file any charges, I'm like, well, why not? And then one of those, I don't know whether it was an attorney, one of the people who spoke, because I was kind of coming out of sleep, I heard him say something about there was some evidence that did not support charges. I'm like, why would you say that out loud, first of all, if you really felt that way?
Right.
But what about the evidence that does support charges?
Right.
Charge them, everybody, with those things. And if you need to adjust those charges somehow, you can. Add in some by dropping some.
Right. But you could go ahead and arrest the man just committed murder. I mean, it's just
but there's something else that I don't know.
Okay.
Like in the state of Maryland, we have what's called the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights.
Okay.
Where officers have certain safeguards and protections and leeway before we charge them. And even after you charge them, you know, there's something. I don't know whether they have that in Minneapolis. I'm going to have to check that.
Okay.
So I don't know whether that has anything to do with it, but I just, you know, I was really disappointed to hear that they were not going to take these men into custody. Right.
Now, I want to go one step back because we talked about what the biggest thing is in the African American community is having the talk with your sons about if you get pulled over, what to do, what not to do, etc. From an inside perspective, is there a different language when officers see Black and Latino passengers, drivers, versus their white counterparts? Is there a different language of conversation, how you talk to whatever? Because I understand, look, for the record, I've been pulled over in New York City, I can't tell you how many times. more than 10. You look at my driver's abstract. I looked at it the other day.
I need to pull your record and see what's going on here.
But I got pulled over for a lot of it. Yeah, some of it I was speeding, cell phone violations, stuff like that. But then there were a couple of times I got pulled over for nothing. And then I shared on one of my shows before where I had a cop. I could be an angry black man to the core. I choose not to be because I don't give into it. But, when I had the landlord, when I was renting in Brooklyn, and I had the landlord give the cop access to my apartment while I was in the apartment and I was sleeping on the couch, and then he came in with his badge and pointing a gun at me because there was some activity outside. This happened in Bed-Stuy.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? There are so many of these incidents that go on and occur within the Black community, within the Latin community, that people don't really understand and know. And this would never.
Okay. So, I'm trying to unpack all of that.
Yeah.
So, as far as there being a different language, of course, they're not going to speak that language to me. Let me establish this.
Please do.
I was kind of seen as like the Angela Davis type. That's
okay.
A black officer told me that they think you Angela Davis. I'm like, I ain't even close to no Angela Davis, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there are going to be things that people don't say around me.
Okay.
That they don't share. But what I do note is that there is certain language that I would hear them apply to people of brown and black skin tone that I don't ever hear them apply to white people, such as the word thug.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I ain't never heard a white person called a thug.
Right.
But black folks are thugs all day long. For a while, there was this word, I don't know if they're still using it, mope.
I'm not familiar with that.
Like a suspect. He's a mope.
Okay, what you say?
That's what he's a mope or she's a mope. You know that mope that lives on. I'm like, a mope. Is that like a suspect? Why not just say suspect? So I felt those words were created to apply to black people. And there was a period. So I'm jumping all over the place, but there was a period.
We got time. We have time. So
okay. There's a period in every black officer's career where you have to decide what's going to be what's your priority, your blackness or your blue.
Ooh.
Never talks to you generally, unless somebody talked to you before you became the police, that you were going to have to one day weigh the two. Now, I feel like you can live those simultaneously, but somebody's going to make it real hard for you. Okay. About 15, 16 years ago, I had my decision point. We can talk about that another time if you like.
No, you can come back because I think, like I said, it's going to be a long, volatile summer. And I think we're going to need you back to talk and unpack a lot of things.
Okay, I can do that. I ain't got enough time.
Yeah.
And so during that period, one of the things that I was protesting about was the fact that black officers were being referred to as codes, CODE, codes. Code 1, which is the designation for black people in our list of codes.
Code 1 is the definition of what? Give me that again.
Right. For instance, code 1 is black, code 2 is white, code 3 is Hispanic. I'm sorry, Asian. I think so. Look, I forget. I don't use the codes no more.
Right.
A code 1 referred to black people. I don't know how we became one there. We ain't one nowhere else. But anyway, so then they would refer to us as codes.
Wow. Okay.
So there's a little language thing going on, like you asked about.
Right.
I didn't know. I didn't appreciate that, but
right.
That started my career being wobbly in terms of my being able to go to places I wanted to, rise in the rank. It took me 27 years to become a captain.
Now, give me the comparison. Yeah, in a white counterpart. How long would it take a white counterpart to get to captain?
Well, it depends.
Depends on what?
Who they are.
Okay, but just in general, can you get the captain in 15 years? Can you get the captain in 20 years? That's what I'm trying to gauge.
It's possible.
Okay. All right, so let's move this conversation along. I was just trying to get the backstory because people always need, I always feel like people need the backstory before we can go forward into some of the things, because, you know, this is all new to a lot of people out here. Everybody doesn't have a police officer in their family. You know, what's the speaking of that, what is the percentage of African Americans in the Montgomery County Police Department?
I think, well, I can't say African American. Look, I know African American women are like 2%.
Out of 1,400.
African Americans overall, I would probably guess about 13.
Okay, 13%.
Okay. I would guess. I can't say that that's a good number. I can find out, but that's my guess. Okay,
cool. So let's move this along. You being that you are a community engagement officer, a director, are you in charge of recruiting more African Americans and Latinos to the police force? Or are you just there to try to show them how they need to conduct their activities in the community, so people will then therefore understand that they're there to protect and serve and not to protect and harass?
It's more the latter.
Okay.
However, by virtue of what the Community Engagement Division does, you hope that you can recruit some Asian, Hispanic, and Black officers, because and women, because we're in great need of all of those, right? So we're like ambassadors. But our job is really to find, for me, my job, for instance, to find creative ways to engage the community in a quality way.
Okay.
Just, for instance, I don't have nothing against Coffee with a Cop. I think it's a wonderful program, but the people that we need to reach probably are not coming to Coffee with a Cop. And
Coffee with a Cop is what?
That's where you pick a day, you pick a business like maybe a Starbucks, pick a time, officers invite the community to come and meet them for a cup of coffee, like in the morning, you conversation, just general, introducing yourself so that they'll know who your community officers are.
Okay. So do mayors have influence over, like, you see The Wire, you see Homicide, you see Law and Order, you see all these things. Do mayors have influences over police departments and what they need to do or how they need to change their behavior internally?
Yes. For those, for instance, your city has a mayor. New York City has a mayor, right? We have a county executive because I work for a county police department.
Okay.
So the county executive is responsible for appointing his or her choice for a police chief, and then that person has to be vetted and voted on by the county council and stuff like that. Okay. So yes, they have a lot of influence into what a police chief actually does.
Okay. Because they choose the chief. They appoint the chief. Yes. And then they have to give them the orders of what they're trying to do.
Well, you would hope that the county executive or the mayor has a vision, right? And
this is where I'm going. Yeah. Because where I'm going with this is why I think African Americans really have to understand the political side of the equation.
Yeah.
It's not about the presidency.
Right.
It's about your local, state, then it gets to be national, of where the power reigns and what happens in your city. Why it's important to have your agenda to bring to your mayor. If you don't have your agenda wrapped up in a bowl, what the hell are you gonna do? Because as we know it today, and I can say it right now, nobody is using the NAACP. Nobody is using the National Urban League. Nobody is using the CBC, which is Congressional Black Caucus. Excuse me. Nobody. Black Lives Matter. That's it started. It never formed. It never solidified. one organization, and then the only time we want to talk about criminal justice is every 4 years when it's time to elect a presidency, and then when you collect that, everybody goes back to 1994 for a crime bill that every black person wanted in 1994 because crack was so bad.
That's right.
So, which pissed me off, and you can see, because I've lived that crack epidemic life in DC when everything was going bad. And all these kids today growing up saying, what is a crime bill about? Look, black people wanted a crime bill, all right? It just didn't end up with the way it wanted. The three strikes you out was implemented by the Republicans, not Bill Clinton and them, not Biden. Yes, they wanted the bill, and they were rushing them to get the bill. Y'all need to look up the crime bill 1994 and see who supported it, who voted for it, and who didn't vote for it, and stop that noise. So the bottom line is, getting to policing and going to community engagement, you need a mayor right now who can get together with the community. If you're a black organization right now, it seems to me I would be looking for you and going to you and saying, how can we resolve this problem in our community? And then you taking that opportunity to your chief and into the mayor's office. Is that the way we should be formal?
Yes, I think that in a perfect world, it would work just like that. Let me use Minneapolis, for instance. Okay. The mayor of Minneapolis has at least given us the impression by his words that he gets it. He gets that, he talks about 400 years. I'm gonna need him to find another phrase now because he done said that 3-4 times, but he talks about us, being here for 400 years. That's great. I'm glad that you got that, Mayor. The police chief who swiftly fired the officers. He did not even breathe hard before they were gone.
Right.
That's a great pairing. Okay. Yeah. The kind of stuff we want. Then in addition, there's two other pieces of this puzzle that we should have. We should have citizens who are going to continue to push this agenda. I'm not sure protest has its place.
Right. Got it.
But we need some people focused on the politics and, this is what we're going to demand from our politicians.
Right. Right.
On the fourth piece is on the inside of the police department. You need to have leadership that is willing to fight for the message, fight for good policy to handle these situations, fight for training. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think training and policy actually solves the issue, but you need that in order to hold officers accountable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then No, go. I don't mean to go. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's why you need officers who look like me, who think like me, to some extent.
Right.
That can parse through the language, understand the language, say this is not going to work for training. This is not going to work for policy. Oh, that's good. We can use that. Because people, officers hate internal affairs.
Rightfully so.
I'm gonna tell you, when you become an internal affairs detective, all of a sudden you're no longer a police officer. Oh, they're a rat. They're, So, but I'm like, don't you all think you need accountability and discipline? We can't have a police officer where people just go and do what they want.
I think that's a problem. I mean, okay. So let's break this down for the people also too. All right, because this is about more of education too of the whole situation. The prosecutors have a right in this right now. The prosecutors and the officers.
Yes.
Okay. So the officers now are arrested. Fired. All right. So they are no longer under the blue code. So they don't live under that. So what they did was plead the fifth right now. But it's the prosecutor's office who work with these police officers every day, day in, day out. They form relationships. We know how that is. They're looking to make sure that they can, get the case and all that kind of stuff. But in this particular case, they can press charges right now against these particular, this guy at least should be locked up. At least stop the protest. From that standpoint, what takes so long?
I don't know what's going on. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I get that there is a higher standard for police officers. There are some qualified immunity questions in some of these cases. I don't know what's standing in the way. I don't know what the prosecutor's office wants to make sure they got all their ducks in a row because it's so important. That's what I kind of heard. But again, that does not prevent you from taking these people into custody.
Exactly.
So I don't know what the issue is.
Okay. And that's fair. That's fair. Okay, everybody. We are, I didn't even realize we're 42 minutes in. I know we can go all night, but we're not going to do that tonight. So y'all out there, you got questions. Let us know what your questions are. So let me know what's happening. What's out there? Okay, so boom, boom, boom. What else you got? Come on, give me some questions, y'all. Give me new questions if you ask me old questions because they're way up in the in the questions, and I can't go looking at it. One other thing I want to talk about is a situation where if you are so let's say Joanne said, is it so important to have people of color in law? It is so important to have people of color in law enforcement. How do we encourage young people to look beyond the negative branding and in the law enforcement to change the culture?
Oh, that is such a great question. So I'm a member of a whole lot of groups of people who think that that's really important, which is
right.
I teach. I teach because it gives me an opportunity to speak to young people about what policing is really like. Because this is what I know. You don't discourage them by telling them the truth. That's actually encouraging. It's empowering. You tell them the truth about what policing is, how it can be on the inside for them if they're young children of color or young people of color. You just be honest with them. And then let them decide whether that's something that they want to do. You tell them the benefit, how it's important for our communities to see people who look like them. Then our communities can feel empowered when they see us coming. I don't know how many times I've been on the scene of a call or I got there and they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here.
Right.
Saw someone that they felt familiar with because of who I am as a Black woman.
Right. Okay. Love that. What else we got? What led up to the encounter with the officers? Sonia, what's your next plans? They want to know. That's a sidebar conversation. But what are you gonna do next?
I got some plans that I'm going to unveil.
Okay.
In a very Howard way. Probably July the 2nd. So stand by.
All right. Suzette said, should or will the officers lose their pensions with this? Is that what is that? Because those guys in Ferguson, they killed what was it, Mike Brown? No, that was Chicago. It's so many, I can't remember. But in Ferguson, when they killed the guy, Mike Brown, they left that jurisdiction and then went to another jurisdiction and got a job.
So that's something else that my group of law enforcement friends have been discussing in our various groups. There should be a national standard,
right,
for not only background investigations for police officers, but a national a nationwide database that captures when an officer is fired from a police department, where in the country, and why they were fired. So other police departments will not hire them. But let me just be clear. Some of these police departments know why these people were fired and they're hiring them anyway.
Right. I mean, it just goes because you got the Klan working with the Klan and the Klan working with the Klan and the Klan working with the Klan. So we get that part. There is also a law. There's a law also too. And I do not, and I swear I'm going to come back to you guys because I can't speak on it right now. But if there's a lawyer out there that can let me know, there's some type of immunity from the Supreme Court that gives officers they're just due to be able to do maintain any course of the law. I mean, what am I trying to say? Procedure like detaining a particular person and I can't remember exactly what it is.
About qualified immunity?
Yes. Speak on that, please.
It's just that we're kind of giving some let's say you have a regular citizen like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We get more leeway as police officers because there's the thought that the things that we do are in the course of our duties. And we're doing those things in good faith. So you're kind of just being given the benefit of the doubt, really.
Wow.
In a legal way.
And that's what takes so long for us to get prosecuted, because in the Markham Gardner, before they could find that guy guilty when he did I Can't Breathe, it took 5 years. We knew exactly, we saw the chase, and it took 5 years.
And so here's something to also note. Those people will lose those officers will lose, or those guys will lose their jobs, and then will fight to get their job back as though they didn't do anything wrong. That's part of the police mindset. I didn't do nothing wrong. I did my job. They're out here right now thinking that, Mr. Floyd, they killed him, but it was probably his own fault, because I have not heard yet that he actually had drugs in his system.
Right.
That he actually tried to forge a check.
Mm-hmm.
And what if he did?
Right. It doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't do that. That is the part where we get exhausted with this thing, because we always know we're always trying to prove what happened or qualify the action when we know the white counterpart. Okay, Joey, you just go on home to mommy. Go on down the street there. Be good. Everything's gonna be okay. You know better. Don't do this again. That type of thing. You know.
Here's another thing I want to set for the record.
Yes.
I want my peers and counterparts and people to stop pretending as though race does not play a role in law enforcement. It does. And I think if we really want these things to stop, somebody's going to have to start acknowledging that. And there's somebody of those people we talked about earlier: politicians, chiefs of police, the citizenry. Stop making excuses. It is what it is. The video you talked about where Amy Cooper up in the park talking about she gonna call the police on an African American man. Yeah,
because he's threatening me.
And people are giving her the benefit of the doubt. Oh, she was scared. What the hell is everybody scared of? I want to know where this fear. I got some stuff I'm afraid of.
Well, see, black women don't have fear with white men. They just kick ass. I mean, just point blank period. They're not gonna be like, "Oh, I'm afraid of my life." They're gonna be like, "Are you crazy?"
Right, what? And it's about to be on up and popping.
It's on and popping up in here.
Right.
Black women are not gonna sit with that. Yeah, that's
I
just.
didn't grow up with that fear. I grew up. You better not be scared. Good. That's what I grew up with. That's what was instilled in me by the matriarch in my family. You don't get to walk away from this fight.
Right.
If you come home one more damn time,
you better come home.
Hit you upside your head, and you did not fight her. I am going to whip you up, boom, boom, boom.
All of that, and I love all of that. Okay, so because you didn't lie, and that is true. How we get down. Now, the other thing about this is well, I don't even want to go there, but okay. So there was one question here that's very important, and Michelle raised it. Michelle, where's your question? Where's your question, Michelle? Where's your question? I saw it and it's gone. Michelle said, why did it take this guy who killed George Floyd had 18 complaints against him? 18 complaints. Why is he still on the force? That behavior right there in itself lets you know the culture is oh my God. I mean,
I cannot explain that, but let me just everybody doesn't get the same grace in policing. Because if George Floyd, I'm sorry, Lord forgive me, if
the dude
Chauvin was me, I'm pretty sure they would be like, "Oh, girl, you got to go."
Right. Yeah.
Everybody does not get the same grace.
Right.
And I don't know why that's a whole nother investigation and conversation probably to find out why he had so many complaints that were unresolved and he had not been punished. I don't know.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's go back to the questions. So I'm gonna go back to y'all questions and see what's going on here. Y'all busy tonight out there. Let's see here. So okay. Sorry. Sonya, they say you put on the clinic tonight. If officers are released from the organization in circumstances such as this, with whom does the primary accountability lie with? Now from Karen.
Repeat that.
If officers are released from their organization in circumstances such as this, with whom does the primary accountability lie with?
So who's
accountable? Who's accountable for their actions, basically, and if they're let go? That's basically what she's saying.
So they've been fired.
Yep.
But is she asking, like, for instance, can the family sue the police department?
9 times out of 10, yes, that's the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And they can sue the police department. They can sue the city.
And what a lot of people don't realize is how much cities get sued by police officers, which would make you want to realize that's your budget line item. As a mayor,
some cities have that.
Yeah, I mean, you would say, if I was a mayor of New York, I would walk in and be like, "Wait a minute, we paid $500 million out in lawsuits."
Yes,
there's a problem.
There's a problem, and so since you mentioned that, let me just add one more thing. When I was talking about the 4 pieces that are really important, when you have those leaders on the inside who have learned, come through the ranks, learn the workings of the police department, don't forget where the money goes. It's important to have people who understand, where is our money going? What are we putting our money into? What's the priority? For instance, this year, even though I am leaving, my division was a priority because community engagement is a priority. So there was a lot of resources put into community engagement this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to know where your money's going. Is it going into training? And what kind of training?
Right.
Is our county paying out money for these lawsuits? You got to know where money's going.
Right. Okay. I'm going back to the questions.
Okay.
You got a lot here. What would keep one of the 4 officers from intervening? Yeah. Oh, good question.
Uh-oh.
Good question, Joe. What would keep one of the 4 officers from intervening and pulling the officers off of George Floyd? Why? Like the Asian guy who's also been cited because he had a case against him where he beat up a husband and his wife while they were walking down the street back in 2017. They sued Minneapolis and won, and he got a complaint against him, the guy that just was walking around and looking like ain't nothing going on, while the other 3 were over there, and the one that had, Kirkin had his neck on this guy. So what makes them say, "Hey, George, let him up, let him up"? What happens there?
Sorry, my friend back. Girl, come on. She got her. She don't put stuff up here. I'm sorry, y'all.
I love it. The kitty wants some action. She's like, this conversation is good.
Wait a minute. She got her stuff up there.
Yeah.
There's nothing that stops another officer from intervening.
Unless you have that same mentality, right? I presume.
You could be afraid of that other officer. There's something that they may work together and that's what they do. That's
repeat that again.
It would be scary if this is something, because you generally work with the same people every tour of duty. So how the folks on your shift roll. For instance, when I was in a younger officer, there was a guy on my shift who I knew that as soon as he walked through the door, he was going to say something and we was going to have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to let him come to all the calls.
Wow.
And it wasn't on purpose. It was just he was that guy who was very, he'll come in and he say something snide or smart, and next thing you know, the fight is on. So you know who the people are on your shift. If you work with them for a while, you know how to operate. You may even avoid a person who works on your shift because you don't like how they police. So he may have been familiar. Let me tell you what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
The Asian officer looked very comfortable when he turned his back to scan the crowd while his boy put that knee down.
Mm.
And then the guy with the knee with his hands in his pockets.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I do every day, all day long. I'm comfortable with it. I'm good. There was some familiarity in that atmosphere for me. I can't. That's just what I saw as a law enforcement officer. I would have never been standing there while my partner had his knee on anybody. I'd be like, okay, we got him now. We got him now. I need you to get up. Because, here's something. In the heat of a struggle with somebody, your adrenaline gets high. And sometimes you have to, hey, okay, we got it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that happened here because we got a piece missing.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget, he was in handcuffs.
Right. Where was he going? That's the part that got.
What was he gonna do? Run down the street with his handcuffs on? I'm okay.
Right. No, I'm with you. Okay. What else we got here? Okay. So we found out that Amy didn't prosecute this guy. Amy Klobuchar or whatever her name is. I can't even pronounce her name. She didn't. She done. She's not a VP candidate anymore.
I wish he would.
She's done. Okay, that's done. Okay. Said loud 18 complaints against him freaking white on the other officers in the office. Okay. Somebody said our officers trained to profile Black and Latinos differently. We kind of answered that, but
not formally. But we don't know what kind of training goes on behind closed doors.
Right. Okay. We got a federal judge on the thread. You got any questions?
Hey, federal judge. Hello.
I'm not pointing him out.
Federal judges. Come on.
But I need his name. I need you. Federal judge is on the line. So, bruh, say something you want to say. Okay. Cam Parker said, I want to know who is liable and who can be pressed to get the proper charge and proper persecution. That goes back to the accountability. And I think we answered that question. The city, everybody can get sued, basically. And that's what happens. So everybody.
Minneapolis need to be putting some real pressure on the prosecutors and the FBI.
Okay.
You can put pressure on the FBI.
You can. Really?
You can call, you can be like, yo, we ain't, we're not.
You know what? This is the problem. I think we have police officers like yourself who want to do good in the department and want to protect and serve the people. But what's happening is the people in the streets, there's not a connection. So the connection is not going between you, who's doing good, and the local politician, and the people who are on the street, the community organizers, of saying, this is how you form an organization. This is how you create and work within the system that we have in front of us if you want to make change.
Yes.
There's not enough of that. And I think for African Americans, what we tend to do, we have not learned yet to this day that you don't always have to go to the street to protest what it is that you want to get across. You can form things now virtually behind the screen. You can form an organized chaos and to put pressure and to call and to make sure that people understand that you're pissed off and that this is the pressure. And if they don't understand that, they will lose their job and they need to put their foot on their neck. And that's where they need to be. And I think there's not enough correlation or not enough mentorship training that's going between the departments for us to understand the criminal justice system, because I think the African American community, they don't really understand the system.
I would agree. And that's part of the responsibility of organizations like National Black Police Association. We do this training called What to Do When Stopped by the Police. But that's well and good. A lot of people do that kind of training. They just call it something different. Noble does it. National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, they do a training like that. So people are doing that. But I say there are some other trainings we need to have, like explaining the Fourth Amendment. Folks don't fully understand search and seizure. Some folks do, and like the Breonna Taylor, who was killed, while she in her house. There's some people who may not know why it was wrong for them to come busting in their house the way they did. Okay, no knock warrant or not. There's some parameters to all of that.
Right.
You need to know what those things are, because that's empowering. That gives you so if you get into a situation, you don't have to act so much out of emotion, even though you're going to feel emotional.
Right.
You also act out of knowledge.
Exactly.
That's where we should come in. That's where people should call us and say, hey, we want you to teach us these things. And that's what I do in my classroom.
Okay. And I think that is the message tonight. The message tonight is understanding where can we go? How can we take the rage that we have and harness it for good and make sure that we have a better system in our community? Because you can only do so much as a citizen, but you can start with where you live first and foremost. So what you need to do first and foremost is understand the layers of how to get things across. Because if you want better systems in your particular community, you need to understand who the players are. So you need to know your city council, the public advocate, if you have one. Of course, your mayor.
Police, who's pro community.
Right.
You could actually be both, but
Right. You need to attend your community board meetings.
Oh, and if you don't have one to attend, create one. Right.
I mean, these are all the things that we need to do. I don't need people on Facebook, arguing and saying, "Oh, well, I'm just mad," and I'm okay. Yeah, you could be mad, but what is it doing? Are you forming an organization? Are you going to revive the National Urban League or the NAACP or all these groups that are out there? Are you going to charge your congresswoman or man and say to them, "Look, CBC, what are y'all doing in order to fight the fight for us as a citizen in this race?" I mean, that we're doing.
So I have this theory too about the organizations that you've named: NAACP, Urban League, CBC, even our organization, NBP. We need to learn how to pass the torch. We are not preparing young people to take the torch and run with it. We are just holding on.
Right.
Instead of letting go. So at some point you got to let go.
Right. Well, it's power.
As a mentor.
Right. No, it's a power thing. They've been in those positions for so long that they feel as though it's power. So let's wrap it up. We're at the top of the hour. It's 9:05. There are some things out here. Let's see. How do we get a national standard for excessive force that would identify and prosecute actions such as these that happen? How do we?
Just know you got some folks on the back end working on that right now.
Okay.
But that's gonna have to be that's law.
Right. That's a policy that got to be put in place.
Right now, we're working on a resolution with Ayanna Presley's office reference use of force, and maybe that's something that we can talk to her about.
Okay.
As an organization, because that's really important.
Good. Well, we could go all night, but we're not going to do that. I appreciate you coming to the show.
Of course, anytime.
We're going to have you back because with this is so much going on in our community, and we need so much answers, and we need answers, and you created the dialogue to give people some levity to understand, okay, what's happening, from your prism.
Yes.
And I appreciate you, and I thank you for that.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yep. So thank you, Captain Pruitt, until July 1st. Enjoy your retirement until we'll probably see you back in June, because like I said, I know it's going to be a long and hot summer. Okay. So take care.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine. Let the